Thanks for joining us on American RVer. On this show, Peggy heads for the RV kitchen and shows you how to make a great tasting dessert, tiramisu. On our Friends Across America segment, we speak with Marv and Lorraine Rankin. We discuss their near disaster when the refrigerator caught fire and due to quick thinking was extinguished. They'll tell you the whole story. So let's get right to the show.
Welcome to this edition of American RVer. Since we're heading into the spring season, I thought it would be fun to make a nice dessert. Now, if you're an Italian fan, you like Italian foods, you probably like Italian desserts, and one of the most famous Italian desserts is tiramisu. And so many of us think that it's so difficult to make that we couldn't possibly make it at home. Well, one of my RVing friends shared with me her recipe for tiramisu, and I thought I'd show you how to make it today. First thing we're going to do is start off with 3 egg yolks. Save the whites for later. You can have an egg white omelet in the morning. Don't throw those away, of course. They're really good for you. We're going to start with the 3 egg yolks and just beat those. Now, I like to use room temperature ingredients. I think they just mix together a lot better. I'm also going to add to those egg yolks 1/2 teaspoon of cornstarch, which I'm actually going to mix with 3 tablespoons of sugar first because I hate to have clumpy cornstarch. And add that to my egg yolks. Stir that up. Also, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of milk. Now, the recipe calls for whole milk. Okay, I don't drink whole milk anymore. I do drink 1%, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. But I'm not going to skimp on the cream because we do need that heavy milk or cream texture that you're going to get from the heavy whipping cream. So 3 tablespoons of milk, a 1/2 teaspoon of cornstarch, and 3 tablespoons of sugar mixed into the 3 egg yolks. Now all I'm going to do is get those nice and blended, and then I'm actually going to set those aside for about 10 minutes just to let everything blend. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to mix together the rest of my milk and the heavy cream. So let me finish mixing that up. We'll put that back behind me and let that sit. And then go to our cream. Now you want to put that in a bowl that can take some heat. I'm not going to put that in the oven. I'm not going to put it on the stove, but I am going to add some hot ingredients to it. So make sure you've got a nice solid bowl that can actually handle the heat. The next step with the milk and the heavy cream is heat, actually. So this is 2/3 of a cup of milk minus the 3 tablespoons that I put in with the egg yolks. And then I'm also going to add 2/3 of a cup of the heavy cream. Use whatever brand you like. It's just whatever your grocery store is happening to carry. Cream is cream. It's always luscious and delicious. And we're going to go ahead and mix those together. And we're going to put those on medium heat just to get them to simmer. And once that's simmered and hot, we're actually going to set that aside for about 10 minutes just to give it a little coolness. And once that's cooled, we'll add it to our egg yolks. So let me get that started. What you want to do is just let this simmer. You don't want it to boil, and simmering means just a little bubbling going around the edge of the pan. So when you get to that simmering stage, go ahead and shut that off, and we're going to cover that and take it off of the heat and let it sit for 10 minutes. So what we're really making here is a custard. We've already got our egg yolks and a little bit of milk and some sugar and some cornstarch whipped together. You know, you probably notice the size of my little whisk. You know, we're in an RV. I didn't feel like I needed a really big one, and this has pretty much done the job for everything I've needed to do. Once we've waited that 10 minutes, what we're going to do is uncover that, and you can see that it's still a little warm. By covering it, we kind of reduce the amount of skin that will form on the top of milk, because you know how when you heat that up, it can form a skin. We're going to add it just a very little bit at a time, because what you don't want to do is cook those egg yolks right here in the bowl. So if you add it just a little bit at a time, it kind of cuts the heat, and we can get those mixed nicely, and then we can begin to make our custard. Again, just a little bit at a time. Keep stirring the whole time. You don't want to cook those egg yolks before they're ready to be cooked. So this is such a great dessert, and there's really only 3 steps to it. You're mixing your egg yolks, you're going to heat up your milk and your cream, and then you're going to assemble everything. And of course, with tiramisu, one of the main ingredients is coffee. And what they say to do in the recipe is to have a strong coffee, and we're going to dip our ladyfingers into it. Now, we have a Gevalia coffee, which is really awesome, and I made it just a little bit stronger than normal. So I don't think Jim will be drinking that. He's the coffee drinker in our family. I don't drink it, but I love how it smells. Okay, I've mixed all of my egg yolks and my milk together, and I can feel that it's not very warm, but it is slightly warm. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and put that back in the pan, and I'm going to now cook this over very low heat, and I'm going to stir it constantly for 5 minutes. And once that's done, I'll show you what this custard's going to look like and what you should expect to see when you're done with your 5-minute time period for cooking. And then we're going to go ahead and assemble the rest of the tiramisu. Okay, I have let this cook for 5 minutes, and it is just a nice light creamy custard. What you want to see is you want it to just coat the back of a spoon, just like that. See, it doesn't fall off. There's a little bit of dripping. It's really just a nice light, not overly thick custard. So that's ready to go, except I'm going to add just a teaspoon of vanilla to that. Give it a little bit extra flavor. Of course, you know I get my vanilla from Mexico, so you know that that's very good. Stir that in. And then our next step in the process, once we've got our custard ready to go, I'm just going to let that sit there. If you wanted to get like a white vanilla, you could too. You know, say Wilton makes some of that clear vanilla that they use when they're making frostings. It doesn't change the color of the custard all that much, but it does darken it just a little bit if you use a regular vanilla. Now, of course, the trick to tiramisu is finding ladyfingers. Ladyfingers look like this, and I'm telling you, I at first, not today, but in a previous time, I didn't really know what ladyfingers were like. They're kind of a cake-like, not really a cookie, but really more of a sponge cake. And I found these at the bakery section of the grocery store, and they had them back in the freezer. So I basically, you know, just got them from the bakery. It's not in the aisle where all the cookies are that you would think they were. Trust me, I looked. What we're going to do is go ahead and cut each of these lengthwise, and we're going to dip them in that strong coffee that I talked about. I'm thinking about it, and I'm not sure if you really need to cut those in half. I probably will. I think because it's going to get more of the coffee flavor absorbed into the sponge rather than, you know, just being on the surface. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut each of these ladyfingers lengthwise, and then we'll come back and we'll dip them into the coffee, and then we're going to layer everything. Alright, I've got all my ladyfingers cut up, and you can see it's quite a pile. I'm going to put them in just a kind of a 9x13 pan. Doesn't need to have any grease or anything because you're not baking it. We're basically putting it in the refrigerator afterwards. So I've got my strong coffee. My first step now is going to be to dip these in the coffee. Yes, I washed my hands ahead of time, but let me get something to pull those out with. Maybe just a fork. You can see how that, don't leave it in too long because it actually will disintegrate on you. So I guess be careful. I learned a lesson there too. Just very quickly put it in the coffee and then immediately get it into the pan. Once we've layered all of those into the pan, what we're going to do for our first layer is going to be the ladyfingers. Our next layer will be the custard. And then our final layer will be the grated chocolate that I have. And we haven't even talked about that yet. That was given to me by a friend, and it's a Nebraska baker's chocolate. It's a very nice sweet chocolate, kind of like a milk chocolate flavor. And that's going to be the finishing touch to this. Look at how great this chocolate looks. It comes in a square, and I just grated it. And you can always add more chocolate because you can never have too much chocolate, in my opinion. And once it's done, look at that. That is absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to try it. But I can't try it right now because it needs to sit in the refrigerator for about 2 hours. You want that to set up and be a nice semi-firm dessert. And I tell you, you're going to be the envy of all your friends and neighbors because it is delicious. Okay, listen, I really hope you enjoy your tiramisu. I hope it comes out as good as this one looks. I'm going to refrigerate it for a couple of hours and then we're going to try it. So make sure you plan ahead with this dessert. If you're bringing it somewhere, you need that 2 hour of chilling time. If you want the recipe for tiramisu, go to our homepage, www.americanrver.com, and just click on the link for the recipes, and you too can enjoy this great dessert. We'll be right back with more of American RVer.
We'll return with friends across America after the commercial break. An RV service facility and dealership should put the customer first. The service writers, office staff, techs, and salespeople must be geared towards making the customer happy and coming up with solutions for any problem. This customer-first attitude is found in the Southeast's best sales and service center, Alliance Coach. Customer service sets Alliance Coach apart from other dealerships. With full-service bays, a customer campground and lounge, reasonable rates, and knowledgeable staff, they guarantee your satisfaction. Experience a different kind of RV service center. Experience Alliance Coach in Wildwood, Florida.
Welcome back to this segment of American RVer, Friends Across America. Today we're catching up with Marv and Lorraine Rankin, and they're full-time RVers, and we have some special information to give you on this show. Thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Now, you're full-time RVers. How long have you been full-time?
8 years.
8 years. Awesome.
8 years.
Yeah. What made you decide to choose this lifestyle?
It's something Marv wanted to do for a long, long time, and then I finally gave in. After I realized it was what he wanted to do, and we weren't getting any younger, and if we were ever going to do it, it had to be done then. I told him going down the road on our way to Napa, California, and when I decided that we were going to go back, put the house on the market, I thought he was going to drive right into the ditch. He was so surprised.
So that was the last thing you expected to have out of Lorraine's mouth?
Probably.
Now, what was your hesitation? Was it family in the area or just wanting those roots?
I guess just the decision of what are we going to do with all our stuff. We'd lived there, all our married lives in the central Iowa area, and I guess it was just the idea that uprooting and moving onto this, and but it's been fine ever since.
And have you continued to just travel the country, or do you go and spend a certain number of months in one location and then spend months somewhere else?
We're 5 months in Arizona.
Oh, okay.
Then back to central Iowa, but we're in and out of a campground there, so we're still traveling, but then we kind of gravitate back to the home spot.
Right, and you probably do your traveling on the way to and from those locations.
Visiting children, our 5 children are scattered, and so we visit one or the other of the daughters. The boys are still in central Iowa, but one or other of the daughters on the way down, and so it works out.
And do you find that you have a new family now, that you're full-time RVers?
We have an Arizona family. We add to and sometimes subtract from. We're very active in an RV club back home, and some of those people are with us in the winter, and so we never really lose contact with home.
That's what we found, is it just becomes another family, you know, and we've seen more of our family in the years that we've been RVing full-time than we ever did in the other 20 years that we've been married. Yeah, so we enjoy that too. Now, you had some special circumstances before we met up with you this time, and it had to do with your refrigerator. And I know a lot of you out there are contemplating, what do we do with our refrigerator? We've heard pros and cons about the propane refrigerator versus residential refrigerator. Enlighten us on your story with your refrigerator.
The refrigerator was on electric, and the neighbor came over and said that there was a flash, he thought, in our water heater. And I said, no, that's my refrigerator catching a fire, and immediately I went outside. His brother was also there visiting him. They were both Canadians, and the fellow that put out the fire for us worked in an oil patch in Canada. He took the cover off of the refrigerator on the side of the coach. And as he hit the fire with a fire extinguisher, the fire was coming out of the roof a foot high.
Oh my gosh.
And it was over.
Because he got rid of the source of the flame.
And in another minute, it had been disaster.
Oh man. You hear about all those stories where it starts and within seconds it's up in the roof line. And then from there it's throughout the whole coach. So you're counting your blessings that it actually was caught.
We were inside and had no clue that any of this was happening.
But you didn't hear any noise or anything?
Not a thing. When he went out and he mentioned fire, I turned around, and back in the hallway where the refrigerator is located, there was gray smoke just kind of swirling up. I ran through that, went back, got my purse, always important, you know.
Yes.
Grabbed a sweatshirt, pulled a little case that we keep passports, documents, registrations, those sorts of things, pulled that out of a cabinet up here in front, and outside I went. Well, by that time the fire was out. But had we waited for the fire department, it would have been a total loss. Absolutely.
Yeah, and your neighbors might have been on fire as well.
Well, it was our car, and then their car was the next one on the lot. And, you know, how far that would have gone if someone hadn't gotten the propane tank turned off.
Oh, see, now there's something to think about.
But you get so excited, I couldn't find the place to turn it off.
And he knows full well where it is.
I was on the wrong side of the coach. No.
Oh, no kidding.
And this fellow from Canada says, I'll take care of it, Marv, don't worry. And he went right over, shut it off. Come in and shut all your electric off so there's no more juice.
No power for it to capture. Yes.
Coach.
I mean, it was a blessing because he was there and he caught it in time. Now, what did you do to get back in your coach? What had to be done? And
the first night we weren't able to stay in it. The smoke was just way too dense, and then there was a terrific smell of ammonia or refrigerant or something right back in the hallway. When we left, we did open every window in the coach and turned all 3 exhaust fans on and just left them run all night. So then it got to the point where we could stay in it the next night. That was on a Sunday evening. So Monday morning, called the insurance people, went through that, then started hunting for a place to repair it. And our second stop was at RV Renovators in Mesa, Arizona. Immediately, they were just calm as could be. We've just finished a coach that had the same similar circumstances. You tell us what kind of a refrigerator you want to replace this with. If you want to, you can go and find it yourselves, which they recommended. They came out, well, then to bring the coach down right away, which we did. And as soon as we had it down there, they gave us measurements, and we went on the hunt and found a household residential refrigerator that would fit that spot and turned it over to them.
so you moved into a hotel or something for how long? No, you didn't.
No.
They allowed us to stay on the premises. They had us hooked up to 50 amp,
50 amp.
and we had a key to the security gates at night so we could come and go after they had closed the business for the evening. Very accommodating. We just couldn't have asked for any better service and help and reassurance that this was okay. It was going to get taken care of.
They've done it before.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
So I'm guessing anything that was in the refrigerator was a loss.
Luckily, we were able to take all of our things out of the freezer, and the people in the park where we were staying were gracious enough. They had freezer space in their commercial freezers there in the park
great.
kitchen, and allowed us to store that for that period of time. Everything else in the regular refrigerator section, we lost pretty much all of that.
Yeah, because that kind of burned a hole through the back of the refrigerator.
It created from the heat, it kind of melted the back.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's quite the story. Now, did they have to cut the cabinet, build framework around it?
We have a furnace under where the old refrigerator sat. They had to lower that surface between the furnace and where the refrigerator was going to stay.
about 3 inches.
There was some
Okay.
rebuilding that had to be done because of smoke and charring on the inside of that enclosure where the refrigerator sat. So some of that had to be
New ceiling.
new ceiling, new drywall around the wall edges, and so on, and plus that floor
And then up
reinforced.
to the roof line, did they have to do something up on the roof from the flames that went up there?
Just a new vent. And,
And a little bit of sanding on
Yeah.
that fiberglass
Oh,
roof.
okay.
And some,
fiberglass roof had
And
to
you
be
were
re-
so lucky. Now, if someone else is out there and they're RVers and they've got, one of the regular refrigerators that comes with it, what are your recommendations now that you've been through this?
number one, get all the recalls done that are being offered.
Recommended.
And keep the paperwork, because the first thing the insurance people asked us, did you have recalls taken care of? And of course we had. Do you have the paperwork? Well, I dug around, and luckily I did find where we had it, the last recall done, and they wanted that faxed to them. Of course, if the coach goes up in flames, you have nothing to prove. But
right. Yeah.
luckily we could produce those documents. Other than that, and consider a residential refrigerator. We have many friends that were fearful of just the same thing happening and went ahead and put residential refrigerators in. We talked about it over the summer, but we'll get around to it.
Oh, yeah. I'm afraid we might be in that same boat. So we're going to think about changing that out. Do you worry at all about battery power with the new refrigerator versus the old one?
That refrigerator on the road coming over here from Arizona was wonderful. It just stayed with the doors never being open. The ice in the freezer was just as hard as it was
When we started
when
out.
we started.
So,
And you weren't running it?
no.
No kidding. Wow.
I got into it at noon to get something cool to drink and something to make a sandwich with, but then closed it right back up, and the temperature stayed right where it was
that's
when we
great.
started.
So it was way more efficient than what the other one is.
Efficiency, and they claim it does take less power than the gas propane
Oh, no
or
kidding.
gas electric.
Ah, wow.
So
So there are a lot of advantages to going that route, including reducing danger of a fire in the back of your refrigerator.
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind. There you go. That's worth more than anything. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Marv and Lorraine, for sharing your story. And maybe some of you who are out there who have the typical refrigerators that come in an RV may want to consider what you've just heard and maybe make that change. But at least be aware that something can happen. And hopefully it won't happen to you. And hopefully you'll never have any more issues with anything in your RV. You're over and done, right?
thank you. Hopefully.
And enjoy your future travels.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for joining us on this edition of American RVer.
For the best RV sales and service center in the Southeast, call Alliance Coach in Wildwood, Florida at 866-888-8941 or go to www.alliancecoach.com.